Welcome, everyone, to the ConTech Exec podcast. Today, I am with Theo and Mo here. It's Mohit. I get it. But, brother, I appreciate you letting me call you by a nickname. I appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, so Theo and Mo are from the Bullpen, and today is kind of a special episode of the ConTech Exec podcast. It kind of combines both the kind of the middle ground of construction and construction tech. Basically, it's how, if you're a ConTech exec, if you're in construction technology, say you're a founder, product owner, or whatever you're trying to do with your construction technology, how do you get it from, just kind of sitting there in your garage to get it out there to the public so that construction companies can use it? And the other way around. If you're a construction company, how do you find out what is the best technology on planet Earth, basically? How do you find these, say diamonds in the rough? Because there is a lot of technology out there. And so that's why we've got Theo Mo here today to kind of discuss it and talk a little bit about the Bullpen. So Theo, I'm going to throw it to you first. What is the Bullpen and why in the hell did you decide to jump into such a thing?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in tech for 14 years now, so quite a bit of time. Started for one of the bigger companies called SAP, worked there for a bit. And then I decided I wanted to wear multiple hats and figure out how all this business works. Joined a startup. Startup was an incubator with like a bunch of other different startups. And all I know how to do is sell. So I just picked up the phone, started calling people. Everybody around me started going like, what is this crazy guy doing? Just calling all these random people. But it started working because the revenue started growing in my startup versus the other ones who were more technically sound founders. They weren't really adept to calling. So they started asking me to help them call. I was doing it for free. I thought that was really cool. But then they started paying me and I got drinking money on the weekends, which was like really, really cool in your 20s. And then I started paying my rent with it. Then that's when I thought like, hey, maybe I have something real going on. The startup I ended up working with ended up getting bought out. So I ended up joining another fast growing company called Slack. And then I joined Zoom. So those are some big companies that I worked for. And then after I got quite a bit of money saved from the Zoom shares, I decided to go back to this. We
Find
started
yourself
this
a job.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Yeah. So started this about 2 years ago now. We had 3 employees. I was like, you know what? Let's see if we can book meetings for myself. Because if I can't do it for myself, there's no way I can do it for other people. That really worked. 40 people. So we do probably 20,000 dials every day for our customers. So we get a lot of feedback, a lot of iteration. But to answer your question in a long way, what we do is we pretty much book qualified meetings with people that these founders want to sell to so they can actually sell their product to people that care.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal just trying to reach out and get a hold of somebody these days. Most people don't answer the phone for sure. They don't answer their emails, absolutely. So it's got to be a very, very difficult process. Mo, what's your role there? Because you were the one that originally reached out to me and we're talking about things. So your role is kind of developing these founders, these folks. What's your role there at Bullpen?
Yeah, so I do a couple different things over here, but I would say for the past year, I've been specializing in cold outreach and cold outbound for construction tech folk. So what I do is I represent a couple companies that are construction tech, as well as I source clients for the Bullpen. So one of the things I do is actually get in touch with the right founders, with the right roles at these construction tech companies, who are essentially looking to grow fast and looking to go to market in North America, whether that be the US or Canada.
Okay. So when you say grow fast, we got to be careful with that, right? Because some folks, I think we kind of touched on this the other day. What happens when you get a hold of the whale? You know what I mean? What happens when you're a ConTech founder and suddenly you're trying to reach out to, $1 billion a year business or $5 billion a year business, and then you catch their attention. They're impressed with your product, and then you got to deliver. What happens there? That's, it's kind of a scary scenario, but it's one that I'm sure you guys deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it really depends on the product, on the outreach, and really what the founders are looking for. Because at the end of the day, we want to do right by the founders and what they want. So to answer your question, it totally depends. So if the founder wants to sort of start slow and then, go up the ladder, that's something we're really good at doing because we know what the right times are to call. We know the right titles to call. For example, project managers. If it's a construction CRM, we know it's on the pre-construction side. So they work a little bit differently. So I would say it really just depends on what the product is and what the founder is looking for and what our alignment is with the founder.
Yeah, Theo, we talked the other day about kind of these mid-market construction companies quite possibly being, a bit of a gold mine for most, because most mid-markets, again, they're so busy doing their day-to-day just building something, right? Their construction company building, like having time to research product, understand, what's out there, or even see. It's a difficult thing to get done. As a former business owner myself, I understand this. I didn't have enough time. I feel like I didn't have enough time to think. What's your take on that? And then kind of when the service that you provide, is that where most of these ConTech founders are looking in that mid-tier market?
Yeah, I think the mid-tier market's a really good market to go after because one, they already have established businesses. It's not like they're, really in their infant stages or like super established. They're just like in that mark where they know what they are, what their product is, what they're really good at. And when we do call these people, it's usually to a decision maker. Whereas when you call larger companies, you usually have to keep going up the chain. Whereas like the founder doesn't necessarily feel the pain, and they're talking at director level. The director has to pitch to somebody else, and then we have to get a lot of buy-ins. The sales cycles tend to be a lot longer. And with these construction tech companies, time is kind of the essence. They have high burn rates. They don't have much time. So when you go after these mid-market companies, one, they have money to buy the product. And two, you're pitching directly to the decision maker. So they're able to make decisions fast. And with that, because the owner is so bought in these mid-sized companies, you get a lot of feedback as well. So what works in the product, what they really like, what they really hate. So
Yeah.
it gives you an idea to schedule and shape the roadmap of their product because they're dealing with directly the users.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, and it's, if you're a mid-level, kind of executive, business owner kind of thing, you're a bit more educated these days than in the past. You've probably already done your research, kind of know what you need. Are you finding that as you're out there seeing, it's like these guys pretty savvy, kind of a tough cookie to deal with sometimes, right?
Yeah, it goes one in two directions. Either really tech savvy and they are really open to seeing what's out there and how they can implement this in their ecosystem and how to automate things, or they're on the complete opposite side where they're just like, I'm here to like shake hands and kiss babies. Like I'm here to build traditional relationships. I don't really trust AI. They're going to steal my job. I'd rather do things the old way. Like a thing that we always hear, and I'm sure Mo will say the same thing, is like, I've raised a family of 10 people doing what I'm doing, playing golf, shaking hands, having beer. Why would I change it to AI when I'm able to do this now? So there's two schools.
Right. They don't see the growth measure. What are you finding out there? I mean, seems like you're probably spending a little bit of time on the phone over there. What are you finding when, are you getting a lot of, yeah, it sounds interesting, or are you getting a lot of, don't call me again?
It's on the phones. It's an interesting world. So it's a little bit of both. It's a lot
Yeah.
of both. But, we're running into a lot of people who are like, hey, exactly what Theo said, AI is going to take my job. And what we kind of like saying to that as a response is AI isn't going to take your job, but someone using AI will. And I think that pretty much sums up the sort of sentiment that's out there right now. But, to Theo's point, like there's a lot of guys in the market right now who've been around for 20, 30, 40 years, longer than I've been alive. And so those conversations are a little bit harder, but again, it's their job to look at what's out there in the market, and it's my job to educate them on.
Yeah. I think that's interesting you say that, because there is a real divide, right? You've got some industry founders, I'll say construction industry founders, maybe family-owned business, or even some bigger businesses that, have developed over the years. And the leadership there, older, I'll say wiser, yes. But this is a whole new paradigm. I even wrote about it today on LinkedIn. Is the fact that we are looking at something we haven't seen before, ever, right? I don't care how old you are, right? Even the younger generation, even though you've grown up with it, AI is a totally different animal here, because we don't necessarily know what they're cooking up in the background of, the Palantirs of the world, or the Geminis, right? We can't really see behind the curtain. They give us kind of a hint, But then they tell us things like what you were just saying, Mo, is like, hey, AI is not going to take your job. But guess what? If you don't learn how to use it, you can't work with it. You're going to have to, be prepared for the consequences of that. So do you hear that, like, coming back? And Theo, I'll ask you, do you hear that from the executives, and these ConTech founders that are out there? Are they saying, like, we've got to engage with AI, and we've got, even on that light, we've got to engage with AI. We've got to put it in our product. It has to be a part of the product.
Yeah, like I think most contact founders are leveraging AI because it's kind of the sexy thing. I think most companies that are getting funded by VC firms and PE firms are leveraging a lot of AI. I think for construction companies itself, I definitely think they should leverage AI as well. There's still so much that needs to be done with humans and it can't be replaced. But like Mo said, someone that's leveraging AI could drastically improve their output. So the things that can be automated, that's like mundane and they don't want to do, AI can kind of replace that. But still so much stuff that can't be replaced with AI. Like for us, even we use a lot of AI, but there's no way that AI could replace the human stuff because I think people still want to buy from humans. So definitely a lot of supplementation, but I don't think it'll ever be replaced.
Yeah, it's great. So I use it for research, right? It's a great research tool. I could never go through the amount of information maybe that it goes through, obviously,
Mhm.
to kind of find out things about, what's new in the industry, what's old in the industry, those kind of things. And it also helps, Scott, obviously, with writing, reporting. French data is really well. But I still come to the concern that, quite possibly AI is something more of a, we have to work with it very well. And if we don't get our stuff right, if we don't prompt it correctly, let's just say, and we don't prompt it, we don't work with it correctly, just like working with somebody else. If there's miscommunication between you and your AI or you and a person, you're not going to get the desired outcome. So I think that's very, very interesting how that kind of works, right? We're trying to develop something that can think for us, but yet we have to think ourselves.
Yeah.
So, Mo, I want to ask you, I spent a little time in the sales world myself. So I get the whole thing being on the phone. It's a whole different world. You never know what you're going to grab next, all those kind of things. What do you think that we can do to get more people to, kind of be a little bit more open-minded in such a cynical world? Because, and I don't know, that's a huge question for you, but you see what I'm getting at, because there is a lot to be offered out there. And what is it that separates us from the noise, right? What separates the good stuff from the noise? Is it just the approach? Is it telling the story? Kind of give me an idea on that.
I mean, it's definitely telling the story. I think in our world, facts tell, but stories sell. And so when you really walk someone through a story, it's something that they can relate with. But on the other side of it, when you're receiving a phone call, if you're a executive in a construction company and you're receiving a phone call, it's interesting. It's when I go up a little bit higher on the ladder, to the D suites, to the C suites, it's interesting because they're actually more open to listening to what I have to say than someone who is maybe in project management. Not always the case, but that is mostly what we see. And I think it's just about hearing someone out on the other side of the phone. You're not going to lose anything. Once no one's asking for any credit card info, it's nothing like that. It's mostly just to have a conversation and really see if this is a fit. Uh, because, that's how we get our product out there. That's how we connect. We're basically the middlemen, where we connect the construction tech founders and construction executives. We're that middle piece.
Yeah. And Theo, we have to have this middle piece, right? We have to have it because if you're a ConTech founder, you might be really, really good at that technical side. You might know your product back and forth, but yet you get into a meeting or you get into a room, and of course you're ultimately going to get in that room at some point. You're going to have to tell a story somehow. You're going to have to close the deal, right? And so I want to
Yeah.
kind of address that as well, because yours is just the beginning. Like, yours are kind of the introduction, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the beginning and the introduction is probably the most important part. Like I use the analogy of like watching a movie and you skip the first three episodes, or a TV show, you skip the first three episodes and you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a really good job at the beginning and ask good questions and figure out what they need, then you can really get the close a lot easier. But the storytelling side of things is huge. Like going back to that, like every person that works here, their first interview is telling us a story. Like, I don't want to know your numbers, your experience. Just tell me a story about yourself. Because if you can tell a good beginning, middle, and end, they're almost guaranteed to do well at this role because it's all storytelling. Like, I'm a big believer in, I'm old school still, where it's like people are gravitated towards two things. Like even at the beginning of the time, it's stories and fights. And those two things happen. We can't really fight people, but the story side of things, when we tell stories, people gravitate and like they remember the emotion and the story side of things, as opposed to like, hey, we're able to help your project management times reduced by 23%. Like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But like tell the story of how this happened and what it meant to them and how that felt. And that really gets people excited and in the door, where those founders now can bring their excitement because they built the product and tell their side of things. But our goal is to get someone excited enough to join the meeting. And we literally can't do that if we don't tell stories. So storytelling is such an important part of that, especially for like our side where we build the top of the funnel.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And you know, what's funny is that even if you're on the construction side of sales, that's how you sell, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on the construction side of the world. If you're not only of what you've done, right, but the stories of how you made it happen. You know, hey, we did, X amount of million last year and we did this, this, and this. And it's like, nobody cares about your statistics. What they care about is, oh, hey, by the way, when, that certain HVAC chase was not in the right spot, how did you overcome it? What was the adversity? You know what I mean? Tell me the story behind that. I heard you had a problem with such and such. You know what I mean? I think that's why maybe sometimes, in the construction world, the sales on the golf course go so well because everybody's struggling.
Yeah.
We're not very good golfers. I'm having a terrible day. Oh yeah, and by the way, this reminds me of the time when I was such and such. And then all of a sudden you can relate to one another. You're both struggling at your golf game, whether you're winning or losing, whatever. You're struggling together, and you find yourself, coming to some sort of agreement on, hey, we've got some common ground here, right? So now let's move forward. What does that look like more in depth? And I think that's huge, right? So I don't know if you guys get to play much golf, but that could be a place to go. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I get this, that there's a sense here, and I struggle with it a bit because again, you've got construction companies out there, executives out there who are like, man, I can't take another phone call. On your guys' side of the world, you got the gatekeepers of the world, right? Who are trying to, whether protect their boss from another, another sales call, another this, another, like they don't have enough time. It's like, how do you guys approach that? Is it purely persistence? At that point, Mo, I'm going to throw that one at you. Is it
No,
purely
absolutely.
persistence?
No, it's definitely persistence. I mean, without persistence, I don't think someone can last a day in this job. But it's really working smart. It's really getting to know what the industry is like. It's really getting to know, okay, in California, this is what the culture is. They're gonna work until 3 p.m. and call it a day. If I call someone in New York, they're still gonna be working until 6 p.m. So it's really knowing not just when to call, who to call. And also we at the Bullpen, we use the latest and greatest technology here. So we have access to data aggregators that help us get directly to the decision maker. So I'm able to pull a mobile number, a direct number, an email, revenue counts. I'm able to pull what kind of technology is the company is using. And all of this really helps us go after the right person. One of the other things I want to touch on is kind of what you touched on, Rob. At the golf courses, everyone's kind of, hey, I did bad, you did bad. So it's very similar over here, but the difference is there's about 40 of us. And so we are able to share the information that we get from other verticals. Someone's working in manufacturing, I'm gonna get some signals from there. I'm gonna hear what they're talking about, what's hot in manufacturing, and vice versa. So we've got a ton of different verticals that we work in. Construction tech is what I specialize in, but that is how we share knowledge, and that's how we capitalize on the knowledge that we share.
And that's really cool. Again, sharing those information across industry from one to another. That's one way to really up your game. If you were to give advice to, construction executives out there about construction technology? If you were to say one bit of information that I would want you to kind of garner from this, what would that be?
I think it's really just keeping an open mind, listening to what the other person has to say, because you don't have anything to lose. It might be that one phone call that solves a problem that a company's been facing for decades, maybe. It could just be that 1 minute phone call. You really never know who that person is that's calling you. So I think it's just about keeping an open mind. And I know it's these leaders get hundreds of phone calls every day, but that's also what sets us apart, is knowing how to call, how to talk, when to call. Construction speak is very different to software as a service, right? So I also sell SaaS services and AI, but the way that I would speak to executives at a tech company is very different to the way I would speak to an executive at a construction company or a project manager. It's very different. So I think it's, again, going back to that point, is just keeping an open mind.
Yep. Theo, what would you give if you were going to give advice to ConTech executives, founders? Like, what's the first bit of advice you're going to tell them about, kind of your approach, or, what would be good advice for them?
Yeah, my advice is always finding independent people giving them feedback. A lot of the founders that I work with, they'll be like, yep, I spoke to 10 of my buddies. This is going to be a unicorn $1 billion company. We're going to sell it to every construction GC in the world and everyone is going to buy it. And here's all the features that I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building already. And they give it to us. We're like, hey, where's the evidence? And then they're like, the proof's in the pudding. Like, I talked to like 8 of my best buddies and they all said yes. Then we start calling people and they're like, we don't need this at all. Or like, hey, Procore already has this integration, or like, they already are using this. And then I have to have that call with the founder and tell them that this already exists in a bigger tool that's already free. So that's an awkward conversation. But my thing is get as much feedback, talk to as many people as you possibly can before you spend all your money, because the money should be spent, but spend it on things that your customers actually want to use and can use. So we do a lot of work where we just like talk to people. We help them discover, is this their persona that they should be targeting? Is this the features that you should be building, and what value does it have? Because I think most founders have these blinders, and I think that's also what makes them great, is they're so laser focused, but sometimes they're so laser focused that they don't see what's around them and what actually is needed because they're so obsessed with what they're building.
Right. Examining your market is a big deal. It's one of those steps you just can't skip, right? A lot of people say, oh, I don't care about my competition, those types of things. I think that's a big mistake. It's a big mistake not to care about your competition. I'm not saying that you need to, utterly defeat your competition, but you got to at least know who they are, what they do, and what they have to offer before you decide if you want to step into a space or not. And I don't care what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in the tech business or if you're in, selling hamburgers. I really don't care. If you got a guy down the street's got a line out the door and you think you want to open up a shop, another block over, I would probably think again.
Yeah.
Unless, again, you might have 10 of your buddies say, oh, you got a much better burger. I get it. But do 1,000 people say that? Let's talk about that a little bit. Scale. There are a lot of great products, right? And I think we kind of touched on it early. A lot of great products. One of the questions that I would always ask, and quite honestly, it could be tech, it could be in construction. Are you ready to scale? Are you be able to provide this same service, whether it's a SaaS operation or a point solution, whatever? Are you ready to provide it to 1,000 people, 10,000 people? Are you understanding what a volume does? And one of the things that I run into all the time is it's very, very, very difficult to test for volume in a world of, immense data. What happens when the data gets crazy? And I know there are tons of companies out there right now that go, I don't know where these gremlins are coming from, but they're coming from somewhere. And most of the time I look at it and go, well, it's probably because you've got, you've 4x'd your data over the last 6 months, and now you're seeing these problems come up. I would correlate between the two. But do you advise any of your clients on that? Kind of like, yeah, you may not want to go that direction.
Yeah, well, there's so much AI now that the AI can pretty much sort through all this so fast. Like, I think going back to the conversation, like what AI could do and what it can't do is like AI can help do all of this so fast. Like, I almost regret getting my MBA. I thought I got my master's degree. I'm like, I'm gonna, rule the business world. But 2 years later, ChatGPT comes out, and me being able to build a balance sheet and understand spreadsheets really doesn't make a difference. So I think with like the data and the AI side of things, like it's a nice to have because like everybody can do it now, but it's not even a differentiator anymore because it's just a table stakes. Like everybody, there's so much data to go through that everybody acts on the data. And like right now, I feel like it's table stakes to run a business. It's just sorting through the data.
Right. So the basic standards of running the business are there, but what about the challenges of being able to scale to a larger size? I don't care if you got AI or not. What about those challenges? Like, obviously you got a challenge, but I still say that there's a big obstacle in front of these folks when it comes to, how big do you want to get?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a huge thing to think about as you get bigger and you get more customers. A lot more things go into play. So now you have to have customer support. Now you have to have the security side of things. There's lots that go into play as you scale higher and your margins drop significantly. So that's always something to keep in mind when you grow the company. It's always fun to grow the company, but things break drastically as you scale and grow.
Yeah. But do you ever get any phone calls about that after you've kind of opened up the door and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, what happened?"
Yeah, I mean, it really depends, but like in what context do you mean specifically?
I think what I'm looking at really is how do we look at, when you open up the door to somebody and you've got a first call kind of top of the funnel kind of thing, and then you're able to kind of, say, okay, this, and then they've got your number and then they call you back and say, hey, this guy wasn't exactly what I expected. Have you had to deal with any of that? This is kind of not what you said, or have you ever had to deal with any of that?
But yeah, I mean, all the time. So, and the thing is, we get better over time, and that's the beauty of what we do is, so I mean, we send over quite a few leads on a daily basis. Let's say I'm sending that over to one of our construction tech founders that we're working with. And they're like, hey Mo, you know what? This person, it was a great chat, but they're not the decision maker. What we do is we constantly are improving and constantly reiterating. So we take that feedback and we have a really strong feedback loop. We meet with our founders on a weekly basis. We have a open door policy, it's open communication. If the founder wants to call me and just talk about a meeting, they can do that. If I want to call the founder and pick their brain on their product, I can do that. And I think it's the collaborative piece that makes it really makes it really nice. And being able to change fast because if one of our founders is like, hey, you know what? I only want directors now. I don't want project managers because they're the decision makers. We have to change fast. We have to refine our pitch. We have to refine our IC. We have to do a little bit more research on the account. So I think it really just goes back to working with the founders. I think some of the best clients that we represent are the ones who really want to work with us. And that's kind of what I say over the phones as well. Like we're not an outsourced team. We are very much an extension of your sales team. We are your sales team. And so we've had a ton of founders, I can't name them at the moment, but we've had a ton of founders tell us, hey, we want to replace our entire BDR team because you guys are doing such a good job for us.
Right.
And we just want to focus on our closers and closing the deals because what you guys are doing is so important, but we don't have the manpower to do it necessarily.
That's right.
That's why we
That's
come.
right. Well, and that's why I wanted to talk to you guys today, because I wanted people to know from both sides of the world, how tough it is to be in the middle of this transaction, because it is extremely difficult. And I don't care. Like I said, work for a contact company or on the sales side of the contact company. It's very, very difficult to open doors, right? Very difficult. A lot of phone calls have to be made, a lot of emails, and to your point, Mo, it's like, hey, you got to get the context right. You may have to pivot on an idea of how you're gonna maybe get this introduced, or you may have to change based upon what the leadership is saying, right? And then on the construction side of the world, you're getting 100 of these phone calls a day or whatever. which ones do you, all right, which ones should we listen to? Which ones should we not to? What do we ignore? Do we just always say no? Do we always say yes? What do we do? All right. And then we have to have this, but we need to be able to expose us like this is a difficult industry to be in the middle of this sales cycle, right? Right in the middle of the sales introduction, that front end, that is extremely difficult. And I always look at it this way. When I was a kid in college, I actually sold books door to door. It is the absolute, I say it's the worst job and the best job I ever had because it taught me so much about who I was and how many no's I could take during the day face to face. How many times can you be rejected face to face? But then, what do you do to persevere? And Theo, for you, I keep thinking of, wow, this is, you say you've always just been in sales and it's just something that always hit home for you. That is something to engage with because it seems that a bit of a glutton for punishment there. Yeah. And I love that because I do agree. What you guys do not only is difficult to do, but it has specific purpose, right? We're not trying to push something on somebody that is just some, random thing. This is something we're talking about products and services that will actually help somebody grow if it's the right fit, right? It will actually help you. And dear construction company leaders and executives out there, please listen to this. I want you to understand something. There are some folks out there, yes, that are trying to, maybe do the same thing that a Procore is doing, but they want you to buy their product. But there are companies out there that I'm hoping that you're going to listen and be open to Mo's advice. Be open to the fact that there are companies out there that have got some great products that can really make a difference in your processes and procedures and can really make a difference in next year's bank balance, those types of things. And that's the point I kind of wanted to get across today, guys, because I don't think that, again, there's tons of space out there for great ideas. But where are the resources that say, hey, here are the great ideas? And the Bullpen is one of them. When the Bullpen calls, guys, they're probably pitching you a product that's pretty darn good because they know the industry. They get it. They come from it. Yeah, they're kind of a marketing arm of things and a sales arm of things. But guess what? That's where you're going to find it. And if you're looking, these are the kind of places that you need to go. And you need to keep an open mind to. Now, let's talk about this. Like, if you're a ConTech company, how do you work with the Bullpen? If you're a ConTech company, how does that get started? Do they just reach out to you via LinkedIn? How does that work, Theo? Yeah. Best way to find it. Kind of last but not least here, as we're kind of wrapping up things, I wanted to ask you guys. And we kind of touched on a little bit about the potential of AI. Are we really selling AI, or are we just selling? I still say this, you're going to have features of AI in your product. You're going to have to if you're a ConTech executive. But what I'm thinking is that even if you're a construction executive looking for products, you're going to have to start dealing with AI. But really, is it more about the overall, not just because it's got AI features, but because this is a company that's moving forward. And this is a company that sees the future. Yeah. I still think that construction may be a little bit behind the curve, even though in the past years I've seen it kind of grow into that, what I'll call the adoption phase of things. They know they have to have it. Obviously, they think the train has left the station. As far as products go, still worry about construction people just going out and buying products that aren't, they buy something with a shiny box that says AI on it. And it says, it said it had AI. Kind of address that a little bit for these folks, kind of let them know, again, what are you guys seeing in the industry? It's got a shiny box that says AI on it, because actually you're dealing with those folks, straight up in these original kind of interviews. You're almost like their first level of verification in a bit. You have a bit of a responsibility there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I can give my perspective on it. So, I mean, let's go back to construction tech. So when I speak with ConTech founders, there's a lot of them who have built a contact product and then retroactively added an AI. And that's very different to building an entire product on AI. And so the products that we're seeing come out now, especially in 2026, these products are built on AI. That is the platform. So there's a very big difference between being able to leverage a product that uses AI and a product that is AI. And I think so that's the biggest, that's the gap that we have.
Yeah. There's the golden nugget that I was looking for, folks, right there. I couldn't have said it better myself, guys, because that's, I get, you guys just confirmed it for me. It's not about the products that have AI. It's the products that are built on it that are probably going to be the ones that are really looking toward that future. And so there's the golden nugget that I was hoping to kind of find in this whole conversation was you guys see kind of the front end of these founders, these tech agencies that come to you and say, hey, I want to get my product to market. And then you guys kind of see it first a little bit. So again, it's a bit of a wait, quite honestly. Do you not to get, too crazy with you on the Theo, but do you ever turn anybody away and just say, yeah, man, it's probably not going to work? Yeah, that's good. That's good. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that the ConTech founders got to understand as well. Like especially when you're getting ready to go to market, you're almost like a new hire, especially in these middle areas. And again, which you're dealing with marketing companies and go to market agencies, those type of stuff. They don't make any money off you folks unless the product really sells. Kind of, right? They spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, getting to know you, getting to know your product, getting to know your stuff. And if you're just kind of kicking tires and spending a lot of their money, that's probably not a cool thing to do. Let's be serious when we get ready to go out there. Let's be serious with our products. Us, quite honestly, we don't have really a lot of time to waste on from the construction side of the world. Don't have a lot of time to waste on products that are just going to waste my time. Or you said another GPT wrap. Right, it's the shell of something. It looks kind of cool. So they've stamped AI on the outside of it, to say, it's organically grown somehow. I don't know. It's like they put the organic on the stuff at the grocery store. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I was running my own company. I would, hire some guys that, said they knew something, but I found out it was really just artificial intelligence. You know what I mean? They didn't know anything. So it's been around for a long time. They just really wasn't the technology. It was just with humans. But artificial intelligence is real now. And I'm glad that you guys are in the middle ground out there kind of doing the dirty work, I guess. It's hard work, folks. I got to tell you. So if you get a chance, give Theo or Mo a shout. If you've got a good product and you need to go to market and you're ready to go to market, or at least close, you need to give these guys a call to try to help you on your front end there. Because again, you can try to do it yourself, but as most people will find out, this is the hardest job, I quite honestly think, in the middle ground. Getting your product out there, it is the hardest job possible. Hats off to you guys. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Rob.
Well, everybody, this has been the ConTech Exec. I told you it was going to be a little bit different today. We're talking with Theo Mo. And man, I hope you guys found some good information. I think the golden nugget of the whole thing is, look, AI is out there. It may be a buzzword, but there are really some products. If they really start with AI, that might really be able to help you out. But until next time, folks, stay safe out there in those job sites, and we'll see you soon.